Major breaking news: Donald Trump and his attorneys and supporters in the state of Georgia have just won a huge victory over the Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis in her attempt to stay on the case and continue, in my view, to unjustifiably prosecute these individuals for fighting for voting rights and for fighting for Donald Trump in the 2020 election fights. Let's break down this big win in the Georgia Supreme Court for Donald Trump. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the 4 Box of Dine, a proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and I'm proud to say the top voice of the Second Amendment in America. Thank you, 2025 Gundies Awards. All right, this is a massive deal, folks, although it's really a crime, in my view, that this took so long to get here. Today, the Georgia Supreme Court has just upheld, by denying a request to review, a Georgia Appellate Court's decision previously to find that the Fulton County District Attorney down there in Atlanta, Georgia, Fani Willis, found that she has to get off the case and her office is disqualified under Georgia law for the attempt to prosecute Donald Trump and his 2020 supporters in that 2020 election fight and his attorneys under RICO or anything or otherwise. Just to jog your memory, in 2020, there was a lot of questions about how that election was run. Without belaboring the point and getting into the details, of which I could, I will just say this. Donald Trump's legal theories had some validity, as demonstrated by what Congress did a couple years after the 2020 election fight. And that was Congress decided to amend the Electoral Count Act to supposedly get rid of the so-called ambiguities and question marks arising from that statute. Those same question marks and ambiguities, which is also known as the law, that Donald Trump was trying to use to argue that the Congress should audit the various states' election results to figure out whether or not there were shenanigans in 2020. Well, needless to say, the Democrats engaged in 4 years of lawfare trying to shut down Donald Trump 6 ways to Sunday, including, and one big part of this was in Georgia, where only one county district attorney, not all of them, just the one, Fani Willis, the district attorney in Fulton County, brought a major RICO indictment against Donald Trump and something like 15 other individuals that supported Donald Trump in the 2020 presidential election, claiming all sorts of fraud and shenanigans and criminality, all tied into a so-called RICO challenge, which is essentially a statute that was designed to go after organized criminals like the mafia, where you had the Godfather all the way down to like soldiers. That's the idea of RICO, was going after organized criminal gangs. And again, the mafia and the like. So it was applied against Donald Trump and his 2020 election fight team. And Fani Willis brought this indictment. So what happened? It soon was uncovered, in addition to apparently reports that she was talking to and interacting with the Biden White House involving the case. Well, of course, as it turned out after a major hearing, that Fani Willis had some sort of a romantic or other relationship with an attorney that she had hired and paid out of the pockets of the Georgia taxpayers, and paid something on the order of magnitude of, I don't know, $700,000 or some large number to Nathan Wade. And then in turn, they would go on trips and do other things like that. Now, there were allegations here that this was a form of kickback, that she would hire him, pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars to help prosecute Donald Trump and the other defendants in this RICO case. And then in turn, he would take her and give her gifts and otherwise do travel with things like this. These were the allegations. Well, after a many-day hearing, which I helped cover on Fox News Channel, many of you probably saw me covering that back. They are involved with that, watching that, talking about it on the Fox News Channel and commentary. After a many-day hearing, you may recall what happened was the trial court said, indeed, there was a legitimate appearance of impropriety here. There was a problem of how things looked. It looked fishy. It smelled rotten. And whether or not there was an illegality here, the trial court judge said, this cannot continue. It looks bad. It has the appearance of impropriety. And as a consequence, he entered a remedy. And listen carefully, this is the important part of the legal question. His remedy that he entered, just to jog your memory, you have liability, which means I committed the crime, I committed the tort, I broke the law, and then you have the remedy. I go to prison, I'm sentenced to death, I pay money, okay? So after the trial judge found that there was a liability problem here, meaning there was a problem here, his remedy to fix the problem, he entered an order that says either Fani Willis has to quit the case or Nathan Wade has to quit the case, but one of them has to go. This was appealed to the mid-level Court of Appeals in the state of Georgia, and the state of Georgia Court of Appeals said, no. In light of the finding by the trial court that this appears smelly, this appears to be improper, even if it may be perfectly proper, the relationship here, but it appears to be improper. And as we've talked about before, justice is not just about doing justice. It also has to appear just, because people on the outside, for them to respect the judgment of the court, for them to respect the opinions of the court and the decisions of the court, it has to appear fair. It's not just being fair, it has to appear fair. And because here it appeared that Fani Willis and her boyfriend may have been doing this case against Donald Trump and all these people for financial gain for the boyfriend that may or may not cause kickbacks to Fani Willis, so the allegations went, it looks bad. It doesn't have the appearance of fairness. And because it doesn't have the appearance of fairness, something must give. And the trial court says one of you has to quit. But when it got to the Court of Appeals level with Georgia, they had a different view. Their view was that the remedy based on the findings of the trial court was not adequate. The remedy has to be, this is what the Court of Appeals said in Georgia, the remedy here, given the appearance of unfairness, because of this, the relationship here and the sort of how it looks, the remedy here is that Fani Willis and her entire district attorney's office there in Fulton County has to be disqualified from the case, kicked off the case. They got to go bye-bye. Now, the case can theoretically continue after it's assigned to another district attorney. So Fani Willis sought cert to the Georgia Supreme Court. And the Georgia Supreme Court today just came out and denied the request for cert. And if you read the concurrence by Judge Pinson, there's no majority opinion here, but there's a concurrence, though, basically says, look, we're the Georgia Supreme Court. It's our job not to fix mistakes of the lower courts. Our job is simply to clarify Georgia law if there's a conflict about it. If a lower court screws it up, it's not our problem. That's for the lower courts to deal with. But here, he said, there's no real question of Georgia law that's unsettled that we need to step in and fix. So basically, the Georgia Supreme Court says that the Georgia Court of Appeals decision that says, based on the findings, that there was an appearance of impartiality, an appearance of unfairness to the whole relationship between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade and all the mishigosh that went along with this, the remedy of kicking her off the case and her office off the case forever, meaning the district attorney's office of Fulton County kicking it off the case forever, that's perfectly fine. So the Georgia Supreme Court says we're not going to get involved with the lower court decisions. We're going to let them play out. We're done. Which means that the Georgia Court of Appeals decision that says Fani Willis cannot stay on this case and is disqualified forever, and her office is disqualified forever from this particular matter, is fantastic news for Donald Trump and the other Donald Trump supporters and his attorneys. Because this means this case is going to get reassigned to another district attorney somewhere else in the state of Georgia. And I have very little doubt, given the weakness of this case, this is going to get dismissed and go bye-bye. And frankly, I hate to say this, and I'm going to be cynical here for a moment. Even if you're a Democrat, even if you're an anti-Trumper, the truth is the attempts to take down Donald Trump and prevent him from being the next president of the United States in 2024 is almost a moot point, right? He's the president. He's winning all over the place. He's changing America for the better. He's advancing America first. No one's perfect. Nothing's perfect. You can't be perfect in this world. And certainly not in Washington, D.C. with all the snakes around. But with that said, Donald Trump is obviously advancing the ball. So the purpose, in my opinion, of bringing this nonsensical RICO case against Donald Trump and the others to play into this fantasy that January 6th was an insurrection, which is just a stupid theory, advanced for political reasons. But we can talk about that in a different video if you feel the need to do. The bottom line is that the purpose of this case is moot. They did not stop Donald Trump from becoming the president in 2024. They did not shut him down with their lawfare. And in my view, this Georgia case was just another way of lawfare, another form of lawfare that was not only designed to stop Donald Trump from being the president again, but was also a teaching moment for the rest of America that says, if you support Donald Trump, if you work for Donald Trump, if you become Donald Trump's lawyer, if you speak out in favor of Donald Trump, we're going to find a way to legally punish you. We're going to put you in prison. We're going to bankrupt you. We're going to do this so Donald Trump has no infrastructure and no support. And obviously, given how this 2024 Donald Trump term is going so far, obviously all of that failed. And today is another further proof that Donald Trump is winning and defeating this nonsensical lawfare as the Georgia Supreme Court upholds the Court of Appeals decision that says the anti-Trump District Attorney Fani Willis down there in Fulton County, Georgia, has to go bye-bye, and her office has to go bye-bye permanently and cannot have any further say in whether this case goes forward. And I have very little doubt, in my view, this case is going to get dismissed because it was nonsensical right from the start. And again, my opinion is this case was not about winning. It was about just bogging down Trump and his team during the 2024 election campaign. And I'm happy to report it failed, and now it's failed forever. So there you have it, folks. Another big win for Donald Trump and Team Trump. Another further proof, I would say, that the lawfare that occurred between 2021 and 2024 is going to be a stain on American history. But now we understand what was going on here. It makes us all better patriots and smarter Americans for understand the games that were played as all of this stuff is coming to light. And frankly, Donald Trump is winning, as well he should, because these cases, in my view, never should have been brought. They were all crazy, nonsensical. But again, I don't control the world. I don't control the Supreme Court. I can only report the good and the bad and the ugly here on this channel, which is what I try to do every day. So again, thanks for tuning in to the Four Boxes Diner. I appreciate your support. Make sure you follow me over there on X at Four Boxes Diner. Don't forget to subscribe both to YouTube and to Rumble and like this video. And I look forward to talking to all of you in real soon here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.